Hello and good morning on your Friday. Finally, the weekend is here. That's a great sign for that long work week. I'm sure many have been awaiting to get finally over. And again, that weekend is here. Like Thursday morning, we're going to sit here this morning and we're going to discuss the Zero Z European model, see the 24-hour changes that we've had, that being the pattern and that being that storm late next week, especially for Thanksgiving. And what we've had here different from Thursday morning is models becoming a bit on the agreeing side that there could be a storm along the East Coast. Now, whether that holds, that is something we need to watch very closely into the weekend, and whether that's rain or snow is another thing that we're also trying to look very closely into. So what we're going to do here is just go through the Zero Z Friday morning European frames and show you what the European has at least output for that storm next week. Now, a few things that we just want to let you know of here to begin is this blue line is our 540 line. So anything above this line is generally snow. Anything below that is either, or at least very close to that line below it, is ice, and further away, rain. Now, here what we have at this current frame is a bit of our Friday afternoon time frame. And of course, we have still a little bit of precipitation hanging around Colorado, New Mexico and Texas, even western Oklahoma to Kansas. That's where still some of that ice and snow will hang around. Again, nothing significant and nothing very much widespread at all, but in fact, rather a nuisance. More across the east today, there will be a bit of a southwesterly flow, and that will cause temperatures to be modest for this November. But what we want to keep our eyes most focused on is this area off the southwest coast coming into the weekend. This is that storm or that piece of energy that's going to charge itself across the deep south and southeast. And with the right troughing and cold air for late next week, there could be some type of storm shaping up. So let's go forward here and explain what the Zero Z European model has shown. So here is, of course, Friday, and we're going to skip here into Sunday. Now this is one note I do want to make before really looking at that storm down there. Here's our 540 line, and of course, the further north that you go, the colder that it gets. And you can see that the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic are very much above this 540 line. That's indicating that temperatures into this weekend could get down as low as into the teens, even furthest north around those highest mountains of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, maybe single digits. Daytime highs even not even above the freezing mark. So obviously one thing we take away in this video was this weekend it is going to be known that cold air is around. But then of course by Sunday we are also watching a disturbance of energy finally making its way off from onshore from the southwest coast, moving across now this deep south, and now that interacting with some Gulf moisture and another trough eventually for the beginning of next week, all looking at how it comes together and what it exactly does. So speaking of next week, we'll move forward here and show you Monday. And again, some of that cold air begins to recede back further northward beginning Monday. That storm and that energy still hanging around Texas. And then moving by Tuesday, we begin to see some organization. And now this is where we see two things, in fact, off this frame. We see another resurging placement of cold air out of Canada, and we see a storm. So you have number one and you have number two here. Is number three off the East Coast? That being where both of these two elements collide. That's something that we're very much watching closely here at GU Environmental Atmosphere. So through Tuesday, we then approach Wednesday, and perfect timing from the Zero Z European run, we have the 540 line making its way into the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, or at least the interior Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, and we have a storm down here along the southeast. And so again, these two elements coming together, you have a little bit of snow, you have a little bit of rain, but the majority of it being rain right now. And then of course into our Thanksgiving, that storm then begins to ride up the eastern seaboard, and here is about the same as what you're finding off the Zero Z European, the 540 being here, and a little bit of inland snow, at least off this model run, not so much for the I-95 corridor, at least just yet. But what we do take away from the Zero Z European model run is there's cold air. There's a storm along the East Coast for late next week, and different from Thursday morning, models are in a lot more agreement this Friday morning coming into the weekend. So looking at one last frame here, we're also going to show you the 500 millibar geopotential heights, and I'm actually going to go back here just a few frames. I'm going to show you here's that storm that we're watching that's going to come on shore from the southwest coast. Again, we have our trough for the weekend, and so we want to watch two areas here, this storm and this trough. And if these two areas interact, if they interact, this pattern begins to slow its progression. That meaning cold air can then interact with the low pressure can pull into that colder air, and that's why this is such a close call for snow or no snow at all, and that being even if still a storm is even likely. But with the models being so much in agreement into this weekend, we're pulling more of an increased confidence for this likelihood for late next week. And we'll just go through the frames here and show you as that low pressure begins to move across the states. Southern plains by Tuesday, as you can see, another area of troughing beginning to resurge as we've made note Monday and Tuesday up around the northern plains and lakes. Your storm being right here, and of course if there's more interaction between the two, then you have the storm's moisture pulled into the colder air, and the colder air taking more of a hold of this storm. And if you don't really have any interaction at all, then you end up having a much more progressive storm. This begins to break off from that interaction and more hangs and heads out to the southeast coast. Not much of a storm and more of a dry scenario. But as of right now, the models are not going that way. They are instead showing a bigger storm along the eastern United States for your Thanksgiving or at least Wednesday, Thursday time frame of next week. And we'll show you that here. And there's that interaction for your Thursday or late Wednesday, Thursday, your storm, and it's going up and along the eastern seaboard. So that's what we have here right now, obviously giving you that very quick update that the models from Thursday morning into Friday morning have become more of an ingredient for an East Coast storm of some sort. Again, whether it produces snow, whether it becomes rain, whether there's still a storm yet, that is one thing we're watching, all much being taken into consideration. But the confidence is much more increased by this team that we do think a storm is there. So if there's obviously that storm on the models throughout this weekend, then we start looking at rain and snow ideas, and then we begin to put out forecasts by early next week. This is, of course, the form that we're going to take here at Geo-Environmental Atmosphere. So for that being said, you enjoy the beginning of your weekend here, and we will talk to you very soon with the latest regarding this storm.